Mm-hmm. You there?
Oh my goodness, I didn't miss that. And that's what happens when you drop something.
Somebody get that door.
It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Bill Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon, halfway through the week. Hope you've had a great day. We have as well, as we have been on the road once again, making the trip down to Charleston Southern for tonight's stop on the Palmetto Pigskin Tour. This is stop number 9 of 11, and we've had a great time crisscrossing the state, visiting with players and coaches, and we'll do the same thing tonight here at Charleston Southern as Coach Mark Tucker will join us as he goes into his second season as the head coach of the Buccaneers after a 6-5 mark last season. We'll be joined by two of the outstanding players for the Buccaneers, receiver Cameron Brown out of Midland Valley and defensive lineman Solomon Brown from Daniel. They are not brothers blood-wise. They are only brothers on the football field here at Charleston Southern, and they are two very good players. 800-956-7266 is our phone number if you'd like to join us tonight here on Sports Talk. We've got plenty to talk about, including the stuff from here at Charleston Southern. Waiting on word out of Ohio State about what, if any, action they're going to take against Urban Meyer. Quarterback battle at Clemson. I'm not even sure it's a battle anymore because it certainly seems like it's going to be Kelly Bryant. We'll find out for sure, I would think, tomorrow when Dabo Swinney talks to the media. And, of course, South Carolina continues to practice behind the Garnet Curtain. Maybe we'll find out something from Will Muschamp tomorrow when he talks at the Columbia Touchdown Club. Got all that and more for you tonight here on Sports Talk. Will Pelagic is back in Columbia after going up the hill to Clemson yesterday, and Professor Tom Hayes is once again in his easy chair in our studios in downtown Columbia. So we got a lot to talk about tonight. What's top of your mind?
I just want to clarify my statements from yesterday about the Trevor Lawrence man crush, because I did have a hard time sleeping last night thinking about those awesome spirals that he was throwing yesterday that I saw for the first time in person. Never did I suggest that he should be the starting quarterback over Kelly Bryant. I think Kelly Bryant is the choice, and I think the sensible choice, not to sound political, for Clemson, at least against Furman, and I would even say against Texas A&M in what should be a tough road atmosphere. But what I will say is this. I saw all of the things that the people who are there every day see and that they have been saying, people who are like from Tiger Illustrated and Tiger Net, and the people who have had the privilege of seeing him compete in the very limited ability that they've been able to see him compete. To me, Corn, this is something with him where he has all the tools. It's just a matter of whether or not he can put them all together in a game setting, especially against high-powered collegiate opponents. You there? You still there? Anyone?
Yeah,
Bueller?
I'm here. The one thing I would take a look at with a guy like that is I still think no matter how good a guy is, this early in his career, he hadn't thrown a pass in anger yet, that you don't put too much on his plate and think he has to be Superman, because a kid like this, I'm not the one to say that he's not going to be good, but I want to see what happens when he throws a dumb interception, because all of them do. Every quarterback does. You freak out and sometimes you force a ball. When he rebounds from a tough tackle or whatever, that's what I want to see. Then you know you got something there, or take a shot that he didn't expect to get, and then he gets up and then just keeps firing bullets. That's what you want to see out of this guy. You want to see what a guy does when he faces adversity, and once he faces adversity, how does he react?
The Clemson Tigers will start class, I believe, today. The Tigers do, actually. They will be doing a light workout tomorrow, after which we will hear from Dabo Sweeney at about 5:45. So we should have that before the show tomorrow. Class starts at South Carolina for the football team on Thursday, and Will Muschamp purposefully gives the South Carolina football team 48 hours off their feet. They had, of course, the day off on Sunday following the scrimmage. They have not necessarily had the access to the field, and that, of course, is a prime concern right now for folks of South Carolina persuasion. Just how does that field look? Ray Tanner was on local radio in Columbia coming up on basically just kind of giving a status report. They have not taken off the basically – it was like a rec sport court that they put on the field, the little tiles on the field that you see sometimes on a rec basketball league floor there. Mm-hmm. They put those on there at least to kind of protect the integrity of the field and the integrity of the soil, with, of course, all the people who were standing on it and the chairs and the stage and whatnot, and all that stuff's being removed today. They're going to take the next couple of days to assess just how much of the field, if not all of it, that they have to replace. But from that perspective now, South Carolina said that Saturday they are going to invite media out to kind of survey the field and talk to the turf and management folks, and even maybe see some of the sod being rolled out onto the field. They believe that they'll have the field ready to go by Sunday, which is 6 days in advance of South Carolina's home opener against Coastal Carolina. This is something that Ray Tanner and folks have said is of chief ability to at least make happen. How chief of a concern is it for you, Pro?
It's not at all. Here's what I suspect it happens. When you start discussing it like it's a concern, it becomes a concern because it gets in your head. It's similar to what we see in the AFC every time somebody has to play in the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum when baseball season is happening. They always think about, well, wait a minute, isn't part of the Raiders field the A's infield? And then you see guys slipping that normally if you told them to run on dirt, they don't slip because it's been suggested in their head that something's wrong with the field.
I've always wondered why they don't all just go to turf. That's just my own thing. I mean, I know that there was an experimental period of time where they did go to turf, and I think they went back to grass. They just didn't like it or whatever. But from that perspective, I think that this is where the grass pitfalls go. And again, they probably keep their grass for the climate we have here about as well maintained as you can keep a patch of green grass. both at South Carolina and Clemson, both. And again, I'm sure, they've done studies and how the water table goes and things of that nature. And there are some places where, the climate or the integrity of the stadium, the integrity of the field, just doesn't allow to be able to have grass, year round, 24/7, especially in the fall and winter years. But, in my mind, Pro, this is obviously something that people are thinking about. They're thinking about the positions of concern across the South Carolina defense and also the depth and kind of the thing that we ended up talking about last night, just the position of greatest concern for USC. People talk about the offensive line. People talk about the safety. If you vote in our poll question at sportstalksc.com, 40% of you still say that safety is the position of most chief concern. 21 have the offensive line. And place kicker is a distant third. But I think those three are all big, big concerns. And if none of those are shored up, if one of those three is not shored up, you're going into a season with some peril, possibly.
Well, the one thing you can shore up with the kicking is the fact that you don't make your kicker kick 10,000 field goals from beyond the 45-yard line.
That's the offense. That's the offense.
The offense gets the ball where it's supposed to be, because people have to understand that White was pretty much around 75-80% inside, 30 and inside the 30.
He was very good inside the 30.
But when you put him beyond the 40, but I'm thinking this year, the leg was strong but not accurate. This year, I think probably he'll be more accurate from beyond the 40 than he was last year.
Your phone calls, when we can take them, 800-956-7266. We'll get back down to Charleston Southern, where Corn is standing by for our Palmetto Pigskin Preview Tour. We're going to talk to the Buccaneers Athletic Director Jeff Barber, head coach of the football team Mark Tucker, some players, and also Rick Duckett, the associate men's basketball coach for Charleston Southern. In our second hour, we have some pieces from Clemson and South Carolina. Clemson nickelback Isaiah Simmons and South Carolina linebacker TJ Brunson. Some honors for South Carolina and Clemson players, and a returning basketball player of Clemson persuasion that we'll get to when we come back.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Okay, we are back. Sports Talk South Carolina Network. Went away for a couple of minutes. We had to make a quick connection adjustment, but I think we are good and ready to fly from here at Charleston Southern. It's a beautiful afternoon here in near Goose Creek. Charleston Southern, just a couple of miles down the road from Goose Creek, not too far from Monk's Corner, not too far away from Summerville. Catching the breezes coming in this afternoon from the coast in Charleston. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. We come to you from the press box at the Charleston Stadium, Charleston Southern Football Stadium. Looking forward to having with us tonight in our second hour head coach Mark Tucker, along with a couple of the Buccaneer players, Cameron Brown and Solomon Brown. Plus, we have added bonus coverage tonight from Charleston Southern. Their new athletics director, Jeff Barber, no stranger to the state of South Carolina, long time at USC in an administrative role. He'll join us here in a little bit to talk about his new job. And Rick Duckett, the assistant head basketball coach, also a former assistant coach at USC, will be joining us in our second hour to talk about basketball here with the Buccaneers. We got a lot of Buck stuff for you tonight. Can you stop the Bucks here on Sports Talk? That's the question.
I don't know if you can, Corn. Speaking of basketball news, we had a couple of very good news items from Clemson's persuasion, a returnee and a commitment. I'll let you handle the commitment side first, as I know he doesn't have a South Carolina birth certificate, Corn, so I'm going to have to make sure that you temper your excitement because he's not a South Carolina kid. I know you want those South Carolina kids so very badly, but would you settle for someone who came out of the great metro basketball playing population of Atlanta?
Yeah, I think so, if they're good. And this guy apparently is good. Chase Hunter has some great bloodlines, of course. His dad played football at Georgia and in the NFL, and his mom played basketball at Georgia as well. And he chose Clemson over Georgia primarily, and we'll talk more about him in recruiting. But at 6'3", he looks like a really big pickup for Brad Brownell. Of course, the Tigers are losing their starting backcourt next season, and that was enticing to him, and also an opportunity to play in the ACC. That was enticing to him as well. Looks like on paper a very good pickup. Now, what do you have?
I have David Scara, who is returning officially, according to Clemson's basketball program. This was something that had been rumored over the course of the last couple of months to be true, but the folks from Clemson have officially put it out today. He is coming back after pursuing the potential for a professional career. He did not hire an agent. He was kind of checking out the waters, wanted to do something in Europe, but outside of that, he is going to come back, and he was a real key defensive cog for the Tigers who got to the Sweet 16 last year. I know that we kind of ragged on his offensive inabilities, but when you put him at the top of that defense there for Brad Brownell, he was very, very key after the loss of Dante Grantham last year. Scara back at least completes that roster, and in my mind, Corn, if they're going to be any kind of special this year, trying to build on what they did a year ago, their defense can't lose a step, and he's a big part of that.
Yeah, that's a very, very good move from a Clemson standpoint. I tell you, Brad Brownell is living right. I mean, he had a great year last year at a time when he was maybe walking that tightrope in the minds of many. So his team rebounded and got him deep into the NCAA tournament. He gets a contract extension and all that, a result of that. The recruiting has gone well. It's going well in-state with some players. We'll see if he can get them, but it is going well in-state in terms of getting official visits. And he nabs a top player out of the state of Georgia, and now he gets David Scara back. So you add him to the roster. That's now 4 seniors for the Tigers, and this also gives them their 13th scholarship being used for this year. So they're now full up, which means with the commitments, so they'll be losing 4. They've got 1 committed for next year, and so that leaves them 3 scholarships to play with for next year with the roster the way it is now. So their seniors are Marquise Reed and Shelton Mitchell and Eli Thomas and David Scara. And it's a good-looking team on paper. They get Javon White to play this year. They get him for a couple of years. They got the big guy Bear sitting out with the sophomore class. And I think they feel good about their freshmen coming in, John Newman III, Hunter Tyson, and Trey Jamison. So it's good-looking team that Brad Brownell has put together. You're going to need it going against that ACC competition.
And you told me you might be a chance to see over the course of the next couple of days somebody who they're also targeting of the big in-state recruiting potentials.
Yeah, we're hoping tomorrow when we go down to the Citadel for the tour to pay a visit to Porter-Gaud and get a chance to talk with Josiah James for a few minutes. We're working on that, and hopefully we'll get that accomplished and can have that on the show tomorrow night.
Well, you know, when you talk about a guy like Scarra, here's the one thing that people have to understand. When you have an effective basketball team, it's almost, Will, like you always have to have a guy on there willing to play in your jock defense and doesn't need the basketball. He doesn't need plays called for him. If that means he has to pick up the crumbs on offensive rebounds, he'll do it. But you got to have one of those unsung heroes who's willing to do the dirty work to have an effective winning team.
I hate to be so basketball-centric, but, Corn, I don't know if you saw this earlier today. The NCAA has said goodbye to the RPI. I don't know if you saw that earlier today. They're using a brand-new metric to source the NCAA tournament, which is going to be called the NCAA Evaluation Tool, or the acronym NET. They're basically going to use a combination of game results, strength of schedule, game location, net offense and defensive efficiency, quality of wins and losses, and something that was not a portion of the RPI, which has been the big controversy part of this, is scoring margin. So, yes, scoring margin will be a big factor, at least according to Dan Gavitt and the folks who head up the NCAA men's basketball tournament this upcoming year. So the RPI has said RIP.
Yeah, I like that. Hey, you've been thinking about that line all day, haven't you?
No, it's been very much appropriate over the course of today.
When you look at some of the choices they've made for the field of 64, you would say the RPI has been put to rest beforehand.
I mean, they basically have
Does this mean the end of business for Joe Lunardi and Jerry Palm? I mean, they live and die with the RPI. They're going to have to come up with another system for picking their teams.
Well, I think they're going to put this net out. It makes me think of the old Skynet is what it makes me think of when it comes to that perspective. But I mean, in my mind, I still think that there's going to be preferential treatment given to name brand recognition and the TV show aspect of it. You know, I don't know how much of a change or effect this will have, but at least this gives the outward perception that something is going to change. Now, if we can only get an 8-team football playoff, then maybe some of the NCAA's most paramount problems can be at least on the way to being solved. But I don't think that we're near that point.
Well, I mean, listen, if you go to 8 teams, then people are going to complain about team number 9 and team number 10. You're never going to make everybody happy. And it just, you know, this team right now, we've got 4 teams. I think the problem that they're facing right now is that, and maybe going to 8 teams is a way to solve it, but we're just in that era where you're getting the same 4 teams, the same 4 or 5 teams every year.
That's the problem. The thing about 8,
good or bad? Is that good or bad?
Well, the thing about 8 is you can get all the Power 5 conferences and then 3 at-larges, all the Power 5 conference champions and 3 at-larges. I don't see a problem with that.
Well, you know,
you know what? That would be great if they did what I have suggested for years, and that is extend or expand your number of conference games, play round robin in your conference, have a true champion come out of that, and then nobody could argue. You know, that way, if some team makes the championship but didn't play in their championship game, you know, maybe that's not right. So maybe you have to win your championship to make it into the playoffs, expand it to the 8. Like you said, take the 5 Power 5 champions and add 3 more and have 8 teams. That's not a bad idea.
I just don't know if they'll ever take away the carrot and the money-making opportunity that those conference championship games continue to be. But you never know. This is the way college football, it is all about money, isn't it? We'll continue here on Sports Talk. our Palmetto Pigskin preview continues with the athletic director of Charleston Southern, Jeff Barber.
We are back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on the Palmetto Pigskin Tour. Phil Kornblut from Charleston Southern University, where we are here to visit with the Bucks tonight, and we'll get down to some football in our second hour with Coach Mark Tucker. We'll also be joined by receiver Cameron Brown and defensive lineman Solomon Brown. But right now, we are very pleased to be joined by the new athletics director here at Charleston Southern, Jeff Barber, who for about 10 years was at South Carolina. For 9 of those years, he was the head of the Gamecock Club, so he is very familiar to the Palmetto State. And before this, he was the athletics director for several years at Liberty University. So it's good to see you again.
Great to see you again, Phil. Thank you.
How was the homecoming? How was it for you to come back to the States?
It was awesome. My wife is from Greenville, and of course, we spent 10 years in Columbia. And I was at 4.5 years at Furman. So, we've kind of got most of the state other than the PD. We've got it covered right now. So it was great. A lot of people reaching out that I hadn't heard from in a while. And I've had lunch with probably 6 or 8 Gamecock fans here that were just great friends when I was at Carolina. And it's been great. It's a beautiful state, wonderful state, and we love it.
What do you have to do first and foremost here at Charleston Southern as the new AD?
Well, that's a loaded question.
That's what I deliver.
As an AD, my philosophy, and I learned a lot, of course, from Mike McGee and other people, Dave Hart. But, you always put academics first. The kids are here for school. So, we're shoring up a lot of our academic situations. Just different things. We've already brought a new person on board, another full-time. We're looking to add another one. We're looking hopefully to build a study hall, a building for academics. So we're doing that. But to be honest with you, I've had nearly, in the last 10 weeks, I counted almost 350 meetings in the first 10 weeks.
Wow.
And so what I'm doing, Phil, at this point, I think is probably apropos, is you just soak in everything you can. I'm talking to coaches and people on campus and staff, and you just talk to as many people as you can, because what I'm doing is trying to collect all the information I can so that I can make wise decisions moving forward. So, I've really just tried to be a sponge and just try to take everything in that I can. And, I'm a guy, I guess, in college athletics, you're either external or internal, and I'm more of an external kind of guy. You have to be up to speed on compliance and all that, but that's not my bailiwick or my wheelhouse. But I love other things. So we're making steps, and in a few weeks, this stadium will look a lot different. So we're doing a lot of things, and I'm probably at this point just getting in my stride, that I understand personalities and procedures on campus and how to get things done and how to make things work. So it's been, Skip Holtz is a great friend. And, Skip always said he felt like he was running around in the front yard with his hair on fire. Mm-hmm. And I felt that way for the past 10 weeks, but it's been a great, great 10 weeks.
Yeah. And I know when you meet with your coaches, coaches are never satisfied. They always want more, better facilities. They've done some things here with football, I know, and they've done some things with baseball just recently. And I know with basketball, with Coach Radeball, I mean, he works in the smallest gym in the country for Division I basketball, and he knows that that's been on the table here for a long, long time. Can you be the one to deliver what he's been hoping for?
Well, I hope to be part of that process for sure. And I've had a couple of conversations with our new president, who I could not be more excited about. He's an Air Force 2-star general, but I will tell you, he gets it. He gets people. He understands athletics a lot deeper than you would expect, and he's going to be terrific for that. So, yeah, you're right. All coaches are going to push. I was just telling the vice president, I want our coaches to push me, and I want them to fight for their program. And I care about all of them. I really see myself as a comprehensive AD. I really care about the softball team, and I care about the tennis team. I do. And I can't always do for them, obviously what they want and need, but it's a process, prioritizing and taking care of the things that, they have to do first, and then move there. And I will tell you, the wheel is moving.
How much of your time and your role will be taken up with fundraising for the program?
It's been quite a bit. I would say from 10%. But to be honest, Phil, when you do talk about fundraising, a lot of people want to put it in a box, and it's the game, and it's getting bigger. It's a lot more. It's also game experience.
It looks like we're having some problems with the connection with Korn and Jeff Barber. But again, just to kind of go on what they've been talking about, they're obviously talking about what it will take to kind of get Charleston Southern back on the map. And obviously, when you think about that, Korn or Pro rather, some people obviously have to kind of go and take this and change the message. I almost feel like it's the same thing we were talking about with the new USC Upstate idea as far as that goes, and with their new AD. You need to change that message.
Well, the one key thing about Charleston Southern is it's got good support from people in the state of South Carolina. And of course, it's one of the most ideal places in the state of South Carolina. The fundraising has to be there. That is a big key. And this athletic program has been successful Just ask Coastal Carolina how much of a thorn they were in their side when they were in the Big South. So they've had some success in football, and they've gone to, I think, at least one or two NCAA tournaments in basketball. So this athletic program has shown potential in the past.
Sounds better.
Corn.
They can bring me back up when they're ready.
Go ahead, Corn. I guess we thought we had him, but I guess we don't. The one thing that I think really stinks is the fact that when you think about the idea of Power 5 autonomy and how that has kind of taken over the way college athletics has really developed, I wonder if, while it has obviously increased the profile of schools, say, in the middle of the pack in these Power 5 conferences, I wonder if it has also kind of automatically disqualified the desires and the abilities of those outside the Power 5 and even in the FCS level too. I mean, it's almost as if you're not on the Power 5, if you're not on the in the chosen 64 or whatever it is, however many schools it is in the Power 5, if you're outside of those, it's like you might as well not even exist.
Well, it's important to realize that when you're a private school, there are certain things you have to acquiesce as far as equipment, facilities are concerned, but that does not preclude you from being a strong team. I think in the state of South Carolina, as we've seen, one of those templates you can look at is Wofford.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they did have a guy who happened to be an alumnus that owned the Panthers and helped out.
Anybody could compete when you have the kind of benefactor like those guys have there at Spartanburg.
Yeah, well, one of the things is you have to find out who that person is. Also, success in the past has been done, and it seems to be on the right track and doing it again, is Furman. And Furman still, I think, is the only private school to win the FCS championship. So this is just one of those things where you just have to find the right formula. A little bit more difficult to do it, but it can be done.
Of course, they have obviously the situation where they have the rivalry with Coastal Carolina that led all the way up until Coastal's departure from the Big South all the way into the Sun Belt. That I'm sure really kind of hurt things. They have, of course, they're playing the Citadel this year, so that's something that they're at least trying to get back in with the community. That's the problem, is that when you have two big in-state programs and you also share a city with the Citadel, that makes the competition point a lot more difficult. And I think from that perspective, you look at this from the standpoint of, okay, how do we at least get eyeballs on the city of Charleston? First off, I think that's your first goal. And then goal 2, you got to make sure, okay, how can I get people in the state? And then you branch out and you say, okay, now how do I get, recruits in for football and basketball and the main sports? How do I get money in for both of these two sports? And also, how do I get people, whether it's via digital, whether it's via social media, how do we get them interested in their programs? And
of course, you sell what some people would say a detriment. You sell it as an asset, and that is the intimacy of it, the smaller class sizes. And still, you're further enough away from Charleston that you're not in the middle of what some people call a gridlock with that traffic they have in Charleston. So you're at one of the most beautiful cities in the South, in Charleston, but you're away from the confluence of all the traffic being in the inner city.
We believe we have Corn back with us. We will get to him and have him finish his conversation with the Charleston Southern Athletic Director, Jeff Barber, when we return on Sports Talk.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Okay, we're back at Charleston Southern here on the Palmetto Pigskin Tour tonight. We've got the coaches and the players coming up after the top of the hour, but our line deteriorated on us once again there in our interview with Jeff Barber, but I think we've gotten things cleaned up, so we're going to go back to him for a couple of more minutes, the new AD here at Charleston Southern. And when we broke down earlier, you were just talking about being a fundraiser and what goes into all that here at Charleston Southern, which I'm sure is a major part of what you have to do here.
It is. And what I was saying, Phil, too, is that people want to put all fundraising into annual gifts or, whatever, Silver Spurs and a major gift. But it's so many more things than that. If you can get a crowd base excited and coming to games, you're going to get people that are giving money, and everything grows. So I really look at fundraising as game experience. It's shoring up our academic office again so that students can come back next year and compete. They're eligible. And so all those things work together for producing a successful program. And when you put it all together, and I like to tell our staff, if we do our job and the coaches do theirs, we're going to have something really special here.
And what is, as you see it, the major selling point right now for Charleston Southern when you go out to people?
Well, first of all, the mission of our university is unique and different. It's not for everybody, and that's okay. But the mission of this being a faith-based institution is definitely something. But the other thing is Charleston itself. So I've hired a tennis coach a few weeks ago, now in the process of looking for a softball. And it's been amazing, the people that are at other schools calling me, say, man, love to live in Charleston. It's such a great recruiting area. I remember talking with Coach Tucker. I've talked with Coach Radeball and a lot of our coaches. And the fact that of an opportunity for a kid to come to Charleston, South Carolina, pretty doggone special. And, especially in this league, when you look around, and not to, everybody's got their good and bad, but small towns in Virginia, North Carolina, and now you got Charleston. So we've got such a great advantage with that. And again, I remember talking with Tim Tebow several years ago about his faith and going to schools. And he's like, man, if the school has facilities and the coaches, I would have loved to go to a school like that. So there are kids out there that believe in what Charleston Southern stands for and would love to be a part of that. It's our job to find them and get them here and give them a quality experience.
You replaced a legendary athletic director here at Charleston Southern. I think one, if not the only one they've ever had, one of
the second one.
Second one, yeah. Right. I know it was
That's
one
right.
of very few have sat in that chair.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And Hank's a good friend. I took him to lunch yesterday. We've gotten together twice since I've been here, and we just talk, and he's a good friend.
Yeah, very good. Well, what are your hopes for the football season?
Well, I'm hoping we can start out well. I've got the AD at Florida is a very good friend of mine, Scott Strickland. And when I got the job, Scott texted me and he said, hey, Jeff, congratulations. I said, well, I guess you know this, but my first game as AD at Charleston Southern will be Mullen's first game at Florida. I said, one of us is coming out of that game 1-0.
Yes.
And he wrote back, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So, again, we expect to compete hard. We expect to play. I've been out to both scrimmages and watched the team, and Coach Tucker's got them playing hard. And I think this is a new era for his football program. I talk to players; they talk to me. We just hang out. My wife and I were very relational with all the teams, and so I know they feel good about it. I hear great things about the summer workouts and the energy and the passion. So I'm expecting to compete. My job as an AD is to take away obstacles and excuses for fans or coaches, whatever. And our job is to win this league. And
at least we got an answer, it looks like, out of Jeff Barber about what exactly they want to at least have that happen. And again, we appreciate the fine folks at Charleston Southern for the hospitality from what they've been doing here on campus. Let's go to an interview from yesterday's Clemson camp from the defensive side of the football for Clemson. Isaiah Simmons, he was able to speak with us a little bit yesterday about him stepping into the role was once vacated by Dorian O'Daniel.
I mean, a little bit of a relief, get to enjoy your normal life a little bit more. But then again, at the same time, you got to work on balancing your school life along with your personal life as well as football. So that'll, in a way, it's still a little bit of a struggle. But, I mean, once again, it's a relief.
Where's getting the most work at safety or out? That's the nickel linebacker.
Mostly nickel linebacker, but I'll make sure I stay sharp on safety just in case for anything.
Where do you think you've made the most progress, not only personally but as a defense?
I I think everybody, we all just like pretty much have the same vision, same focus. So we're all on the same page and we're all striving to get to the same thing.
Is this kind of the point where you start to get that itch a little bit to get focused on the season ahead, not just the camp part?
Yeah, most definitely. Just me and a few other guys were talking yesterday. Like, wow, we play next week. Like, it's almost that time. It's time to get ready for this. Not that we haven't been getting ready, but now it's like really like zoom focus on one team.
You like the state of the defense is right now?
Oh, most definitely. I think when it comes down to the nitty gritty, we're definitely going to be ready. Just based off of our preparation and our grind that we've had.
You were here in 2016. Do you think this team has a chance to be that good?
I mean, I guess we're going to have to take it game by game. I can't really call it right now. But I would say we definitely have the tools. It just depends on if we're going to keep the focus.
What's that transition been like for you since the spring and the fall, going from safety to more linebacker?
Well, I mean, my freshman year, I learned a little bit of it. It was just once again like a just in case factor. And last year, I continued to like stay on top of it just to make sure I knew it some. But now that I'm like fully transitioned into it, it made it a lot easier. And knowing both safety spots, it made it easier as well because the strong safety and the nickel kind of correspond with each other.
Guys establishing themselves as more backups to the two safety spots like Nolan and Denzel.
I would say it definitely gave Nolan and Denzel a chance to really step up and show what they can do. And this fall camp, they've both done like great, like wonderful. And I think that they're both going to be big factors in our defense this year.
What's been the hardest transition part for you, I guess? Is there anything you particularly feel like you really had to focus on?
Oh, yeah, just like the techniques. There's a different technique for safety than there is for nickel. And just knowing where my help is at that position opposed to safety. Those were two of the biggest things that I had to really focus on.
You think it was more mental or physical?
Yeah, it's just definitely more mental. You just got to think. At the nickel position, there's more you have to think about because – I mean, of course, you're more involved in the run game because you're closer, and it's shorter time to think because you're not as far back off the line.
There are a lot of players on that linebacking core for Clemson, Pro, but I mean, Dorian O'Daniel was the big part of that, at least from the tackle perspective. Simmons kind of fits that mold of that hybrid kind of player who can not only be in coverage but also can stuff the run.
Well, that's the key point of having linebackers in coverage. That seems to be the athlete of choice, the athlete that's premium, that's needed in a defense nowadays, especially with all these RPOs. But then he has the luxury of having those big four horses up front that would take care of the dirty work as far as keeping blockers off those linebackers so they can make plays.
The only real recruiting note to bring you was one we had covered earlier. The first 2019 hoops commitment for Brad Brownell and the Clemson Tigers, 6'3" guard Chase Hunter of Atlanta. He did Brownell, Georgia head coach Tom Crean for Hunter, who has strong family ties to UGA. His mother played at Georgia, and his father played football at Georgia. He made unofficial visits to both Athens and Clemson, but his only official visit was to Clemson this past weekend. He said it was a great choice. It checked off all the boxes as far as everything to me, fit my style, fit the way that I play. They run a lot of pick and rolls and get out and run. That's basically my game, and I'm an athletic guard, so I like to get out and run. He also had Oklahoma, Virginia, and Michigan State on his short list, and as Corn chronicled earlier, Clemson, at least at this point right now where the numbers lie, stands to lose 4 players off their current roster, which include David Scarra, Eli Thomas, Marquise Reed, Shelton Mitchell. This would be one player that adds themselves into that fold. There's one player on the roster currently that is sitting out because of a transfer rule. That is, of course, Jonathan Baer. So they will add him as well to the at least playable roster. And at least from this point on, 3 spots left. But as we always say in the basketball recruiting circle, you have as many spots as you need, and the numbers always work themselves out.
Well, you know, after the Sweet 16 run, if you saw Brad Brownell, of course, we all did, he let his guards, he talked about defense and the plays he wanted to run, but you could tell he lets his guards have their freedom also. And I think that's attractive to especially for guards who are looking at Clemson.
We hope to bring you back some more from Charleston Southern when we come back. Head coach Mark Tucker, the players, and associate men's basketball coach Rick Duckett as our Palmetto Pigskin preview continues when we return after this on Sports Talk.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show. 800-956-7266.
We are back at Charleston Southern here on the Palmetto Pigskin Tour. Phil Kornblut here, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes back at the studios in Columbia. And it is time to get into the football portion of our visit here to Charleston Southern as we welcome in head coach Mark Tucker of the Buccaneers going into season 2 as the head coach, coming off a 6-5 overall mark last year in a season of 3-2 in the Big South. Good to see you once again, sir.
Good to see you, Phil.
Hope you had a good camp to this point, and you're looking forward to the opener down at Florida. How has the camp gone to this point of the year?
It's gone incredibly well. This is my 6th year total here at Charleston Southern. I've compared the mindset, the pace, I won't even want to call it attitude, just the willingness to create what has been existence, the time that we've been here. But I would have to go all the way back to 13 when we first got here. We inherited a group of young men that were hungry to believe in anything and wanted success so badly. And then we immediately went down to Citadel in week 1 and validated that. So they were flying high for a long time. We reeled off 7 in a row that year, and it reminds me an awful lot of that. We had a great deal of growing up to do at that time, but they were so young, they didn't know any better. And until we ran out of gas the last 2 ball games of the year, but we've had I'm really, really proud of our young men. We're in a good place.
So you like the veteran leadership that you have on this team. You like some of the skill position people you have coming back, and you've got a pretty good fair number of starters returning from defense who were among your leading tacklers last year.
Absolutely. Replacing somebody like Anthony is very difficult.
Anthony
Ellis. We had lost 3 guys out back defensively going before last season. And now we have an entire group's played an awful lot of football. So that was a question mark last year. Replacing Anthony, as I mentioned, that's very difficult. We had some young men graduate through circumstances. They didn't come back for a 5th year. One family member, another one, frankly, just, Coach, I don't want to go to school anymore.
Yeah.
So, we're missing them, but we've recruited well, and we recruited some older guys. Because of need. We've had a luxury here for a while of being very good up front defensively, but having great depth as well. And it's rare at the FCS level to have the quality of depth that we've had really since we've been here. More self-made early. We had some stars, but we had an awful lot of guys that they're very hungry. We had some questions to answer when we came into camp, and we feel very good about where that's going.
What's going on at the quarterback spot?
London, this is his time, and he's portraying things that I have been.
This would be London Johnson.
It would be, excuse me. London, he's finally gotten himself to the place where he understands. And I'm not talking about schematic. I'm talking about the maturity to play that position, to carry it, to lead it. And he's in that place where, okay, I get it. I wish I'd have listened to you earlier, where there's a limited amount of regret, but I'm very, very proud of Jack Chambers has developed nicely, a redshirt freshman. Jack has a very, very talented arm, and surprisingly runs better than no quarterback in our system is not going to run well. London is a difference maker in terms of his speed. Jack runs better and has developed and strengthened himself and has exceeded what I thought he could do just from a skill set in terms of with the ball in his hands and speed, feet. Been very, very pleased. And I'm very pleased with 2 freshmen that we have in as well.
Yeah, one thing I remember about London from his days at Marlboro County was just what a tremendous athlete he is, and he has certainly brought those skills with him here.
That's the way to describe him. Quarterbacks are playmakers. I've never been one to really buy into managing a football game. If you're going to touch the football every single snap, you're a playmaker. Yeah. And speed and the God-given gifts that London has, or what are we attracted to him?
You guys have had a real good run of success at running the football.
Yes.
And a real good run of success at stopping the run.
Yes,
Your defense was very good last year.
We played very good defense.
You did. Pretty much the same format this year with this team as you see it, the makeup of this team?
Well, I mentioned a few minutes ago that we've enjoyed great depth. When you can take complete defensive units up front and roll them in series of 4 plays, and you're fresh, that's a luxury. And there's very little drop off. I won't say we're in that place, but we're close. We've got some young guys that are progressing very, very nicely, and the older guys are acclimating. And the ones that we already had, I'm a little biased. Johnny Robinson's finding inside techniques anywhere in the country in FCS. I feel very comfortable with that. Solomon Brown he's a proven all-conference, all-American player. It's some of the other spots that we need to shore up the depth phase of things. We're going to be okay.
Can you get more out of your passing game?
We have to. The one thing that defined the 2017 season, and I coached them, and I'll be the first one. We're going to look internal first. For the first time since I've been here, our quarterback play was not consistent throughout the season, productive, quality. Your quarterback doesn't play well, you're not going to win the games. You're just not going to. You have to have the entire supporting cast. But very good quarterback play is what leads to good seasons and good records. It's not a cliche. It's a reality.
Right.
We did not consistently perform there like we needed to. Everybody else has to do their part, but we need that to happen. We need that to happen.
So you go next week down to the Swamp.
We do.
Not Washington. We're talking Gainesville.
Nope.
That Swamp.
Yep, that Swamp.
Yeah. Now, last year you went to Mississippi State. So, you're no stranger to traveling to SEC territory to open up the season.
Don't know. We're trying to visit them all. We are.
South Carolina next year.
Sure. Yeah.
So what about facing the Gators?
I get to say hello to Coach Mullen again. We played very, very poorly. We were non-competitive last year in Starkville, and Coach Mullen was nothing but a class act, an absolute class act. Call things as they are, and we were embarrassed, and it affected us. And
you had 2 first downs.
Yeah,
I remind you of that.
Oh, no. You don't have to tell me that. We had roughly 38 yards total offense. We had more negative yardage because we snapped the ball over.
Actually, you had 33.
Sorry, stand corrected. It's on the scales of justice. All right. Bottom line is we want to go down there and obviously be as competitive as we possibly can. We're not going down there to just show up or anything like that, but we also are realistic. We might play 500 times. We might win once in 500 times. I don't know. Okay. We might be 0 for 500, but I have been part of programs that have gone into these venues, and I've had a good feel for when we could be competitive and have a chance and when we not. As part of running the Citadel, we won 6 consecutive 1A games. So won one when I was a coach at East Tennessee State, at NC State. So I have a feel for when you got a chance and when you don't.
And
I want to be more competitive. We're going to need some help. There's no question. Every one of those wins that I've ever been a part of, the Academy games, we competed very nicely.
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina, NC State, Arkansas, we need some help.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to need some help, and we know that, but we have to take advantage of every opportunity we can create for ourselves to be competitive. That's the best conference of college football in the country. It's still America. I'm allowed an opinion. It's the best conference of college football in America.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for it.
I'm so happy we got this interview complete without any issues. Poor Mr. Barber.
I feel bad for Jeff.
For him. Yeah, he said some great stuff when our line kept dropping, but I'm glad we got it through with you, and best of luck this year. I hope everything goes
Thank
well.
You. We're blessed to have Jeff as part of our family and leading our athletic department, as well as Dr. Costin, our new president.
Thank you so much for coming up.
Thank you, Phil.
We'll be back with more in a moment.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Okay, we continue with the Palmetto Pigskin Tour on this Wednesday night. We are at Charleston Southern University. Had Coach Mark Tucker with us a few moments ago. Enjoyed talking with him. Glad he's got a good sense of humor. Way I was kind of picking on him about that Mississippi State game. Surprised he didn't take a swing at me. Got a couple of the Bucks up here with us now. We are joined by Cameron Brown out of Midland Valley High School, second team all-conference last season with 27 catches, 540 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And we're joined by Solomon Brown, no relation, out of Daniel, two-time first team all-conference, 58 tackles last year, 8 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, and 15 career sacks. He's 10 away from tying the school record set by the great Anthony Ellis. So that's a major target to shoot for. Cameron, let's start with you. And first of all, thanks for coming up and joining us here not too long after practice. And, well, how ready are you guys to go to Gainesville and make a good showing against the Gators?
I think we still have a lot of room to improve. Because the weather here is so bad where we have to cancel a lot of things, but we kind of have to get a lot of film, get some more film, and just to get some more preparation to prepare for teams down the road. But I feel like we're taking steps in a good direction, and we're coming along.
How has the offense looked in camp and now in your practice and getting ready for Florida?
I think we've looked pretty good, actually. Normally when we go against our defense, it's them always imposing their will on us and just getting the best of us. But I feel like these past couple of weeks and in camp, we've made some strides at offense and moved the ball in the right direction. So I think we look pretty good so far.
You guys have always run the ball well. Yeah, that's never been a problem. I know folks now want to see the passing game come along. How has it looked with London Johnson at quarterback and how well he's throwing the ball?
I think London looks really good right now. He has gotten a lot better over time, and during workouts this summer, we've been throwing the ball with him, trying to get a good chemistry down, just working together. Trying to get things figured out to make it easier for us down the road. But right now he's looking pretty good. We have another guy in Jack Chambers. He's looking great as well. So I feel like it's going to be a lot of good things down the road for us as receivers. And
Solomon, the defense has been good here for a while. You guys were good last year, especially against the run, 130 yards per game, I think it was, giving up against the run, and only 19 points per game. And that was playing 2 FBS teams last year. So are you guys going to be as good this year defensively?
This year, I think it's going to be a different dynamic. Definitely missing Anthony Ellis and Zane Cruz. They were a big part of our defense last year. But I do think we have a still strong run defense, and I think our passing defense has even improved. So this year, hopefully, we set better records.
What makes you an effective pass rusher?
I like to think that my arms are kind of deceptive. Like most people think they're not as long as they are. And I kind of just can play all around. So I'm not huge and heavy. So it's not like I'm going to be slow, and I'm not the fastest of the guys, but I'm just in the middle, and I can kind of squeeze. I can just do all things around that edge corner.
You got a favorite move?
Right now I'm favoring the long arm, but I'm picking up different things, and it just depends on how the offensive line is giving me that day or that person.
Now, what is the long arm?
So you'll speed up the field and get him to be off balance, and then you'll jab an arm pretty much into the middle of his chest and pretty much drive him back into the quarterback. And then so if the quarterback rolls out, you're still open to adjust out and make the tackle.
Very good, very good. So when you look at the video of Florida, what are you expecting from Felipe Franks? I guess he's going to be the quarterback. Is that who y'all are expecting?
Whoever they put out there, I'll be ready for. But expecting them to look similar to Mississippi State. So we're just going to go out there and play my best. I'm always excited for the big games. That's when I typically play my best during those big games too. So we'll just be ready when we come out there.
Cameron, the idea of FCS teams playing FBS teams, I mean, some of us in the media, and I have to be totally honest with you guys, I'm not crazy about those games because so many of them become routes. And, there's not much competition out there. I do know from time to time a FCS team can rise up and win a game and give an FBS team quite a battle. I mean, we do see it. But from a player standpoint, when you go into preparation for playing a Florida down there, and you're here at Charleston Southern where, you can maybe win the Big South, do you as a player fully believe you can go in there and play with those guys and even beat them?
Always, man. It doesn't matter who we're playing against. I feel like the goal is always to win. We prepare, we put in these long hours every week to go out and win the game. It's never to try to lose, just go in and get the money game. So I think each and every individual on the team, we're looking to win. We're looking to go out and give our best, no matter who it is, each week. And that's just the goal.
How about you, Solomon, from the defensive standpoint, knowing what you guys can do, and also just your mindset about stepping up and playing these teams?
Mindset, we're definitely going to it, just as like Cam said, we're going into it to win the game. But me personally, I think, people try to look down on us a little bit because we're at a smaller Division I school. So this is just a perfect opportunity. I think it has an opportunity to show why – like you're not that much better or not better than me at all. So you pretty much just everybody's take that mentality, that chip on our shoulder to go in there and, show what we got.
Sure. Looking ahead to the Big South, you guys were picked third in the preseason poll. Solomon, is that a good pick by the media? Or are they overlooking you guys a little bit?
I'm going to, of course, say they're overlooking us. I would never satisfy for third. I think last year since we were in a transition year with coaches and everything, we were a little out of sync and all that. But this year with a year under our belt, we're definitely more prepared and we'll be ready for everybody in the conference.
Yeah, Cam, what do you think about your chances for a Big South championship?
I think we got pretty high chances. No other team in the conference in my eyes can really compete with us. Like he said, we had a down year last year with having to adjust to everything, but I feel like this year is going to be better for us, and we're just looking to go out and compete.
Guys, we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
We'll be watching when you go to Gainesville a week from Saturday. It's coming up quickly. You ready for the heat, humidity? Well, you got heat, humidity down here too, right?
Yes, sir.
Not much of a difference, but maybe the size and speed of the guys you're going to face is going to be a little bit different.
We're ready for anything.
Yeah. I know you are. You sound like it. I believe you. You got me believing. Huh? Upset City?
Yeah.
Can I predict it? Can I go on the air and predict Charleston Southern to beat Florida?
Believing half the battle.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
But you know how the media is. We're hard to convince.
We don't play for them. We don't play for the media.
Who do you play for?
We play for CSU.
Yeah.
Just CSU. I don't care. Everybody else and their opinions don't even matter to us. Just go out and try to win.
Shock the world.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, guys. Best of luck.
Yes, sir. Thank
Great
you.
seeing you.
Thank you.
Solomon Brown, Cam Brown. They're brothers through their bloodlines here at Charleston Southern, but not from a birth standpoint.
Oh, no, sir.
They don't even look alike. So thank you, guys. Of course, they are good to South Carolina kids, too, from Daniel in Midland Valley, and always good to hear from the guys here in the state of South Carolina. So, guys, do we go out on the limb and predict Charleston Southern to stun the world a week from Saturday?
No offense to the gentleman that just joined you, but I'd be shocked.
They want your phone number and they want to know your address because they want to hunt you down on the Sunday after.
You are down there in Charleston, Corn. Someone on our affiliate, Charleston Sports Radio, Jimmy Bradford show, had Will Muschamp on it. He said that the J.C. Horn is among the top candidates to play nickel. So he just continues to be rising up people's minds.
In the nickel group. He'll probably be a corner. Yeah.
So.
Well, he's had a great camp, and, they were very high on him when they signed him, and he's had a great camp. And, again, I don't think they moved Nick Harvey to safety unless they had enough capable bodies to play corner and nickel.
Yeah, they said he'd be at one of the outside spots opposite of Rashad Fenton. They'd have Nixon at nickel and then Harvey at safety along with Stephen Montag.
Well, I'm glad to see Muschamp has come from behind the garnet curtain.
He's at a Mod Carolina event today, too. So, but again, all the USC coaches are as well.
Yeah. All right, we'll be back. Going to talk a little hoops here with the Buccaneers' Rick Ducats. Stay with us. All right, we're back at Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. The Palmetto Pigskin Tour now turning into the Palmetto Roundball Tour as we welcome in associate head coach here at Charleston Southern, Coach Rick Ducats, who, of course, coaches along with Barkley Radebaugh for the Buccaneers basketball team. We're doing the entire Charleston Southern family while we're here. Right. So it's good to see you.
Nothing like family. Good to see you, Phil.
Usually, of course, you've been here 2 years. B.J. Mackey would come bebopping in, but I'd much rather talk to you than BJ.
Oh, man, he's one of the all-time greats.
Well, I mean, just go to the arena and look and see his
absolutely
jersey hanging up there. So how are things here with Charleston Southern hoops going into this upcoming season. How do you feel about it?
I think it's going to be an exciting year. I think anytime you start a new season and you have new faces and guys who are eager to play and learn and to grow as athletes and certainly grow as people, you have an opportunity for success. So I think it's going to be a fun year and a great opportunity for this basketball team.
Who are some of the people on the team that people will be hearing about this season?
Well, I think obviously, the stalwarts, obviously the bookends, we look at Christian Keeling, who, of course, is an all-conference player. So he's the guy that we think will be really good. D.D. Buskey, the guy who is a freshman who's going to be a sophomore, we think will have a chance to play and make a contribution. I think Flandris is another young man that came in as a freshman and was made all the freshman team. So he's a young man also that we would look to improve and to continue to grow as a basketball player. And then I think the next thing is, can you develop depth, Phil? I mean, obviously you have two guys on each end. The point guard situation is crucial to any success you might have. And then, of course, our interior guys will be freshmen. So, they're going to be a work in progress. So, we'll have to rally around them and create great support defensively and rebound as a team. But, I think all those kind of things is part of the growing process of building a good basketball team.
No doubt about it. So what have you seen in the workouts that you guys have been able to have in terms of how guys have come back from their summer and, kind of improved as a group?
Well, I think what happens in the summer, you do a lot more individual kinds of things and not focus, at least from the philosophy that's here, of working as a team and putting in, let's say, offense and defenses as a group. You're really working on individual basketball improvements. And then as we talk about the development of each player, then they continue to grow in those areas, and that makes for a better basketball team, obviously. I think from a team perspective, I think, as guys learn to play with each other, like they play pickup and play games amongst themselves until the practice starts, they'll learn chemistry and what other guys around them can do. And of course, sharing the basketball, as you know, is such a big deal offensively, where people share, where guys work hard to get open and help each other score. So you look at those things. And then, of course, what kind of winning mindset do you have on the defensive end? Are you of the mindset that you're going to defend and rebound the basketball? And if you can do that and then help your offense in that way, then I think the game continues to grow and you continue to get a better basketball product.
You're a guy that's been around the basketball world a long, long time. I'm wondering what you thought of your first game in Buck Dome as a member of the staff.
You know what, Phil? I tell you what, I've seen so many basketball games, and first games, they seem like the last game. I think you're just as nervous at the start of the season as you are at the end of the season. So it's really it's a one-game approach. You go into the game and, you really get locked in. People think of atmosphere and crowds and things. Of course, I've been in large arenas and places like that. But, once the game starts, you lock all that out of what's happening around you and what the people are doing, and you focus in on what's happening 94 feet from you there. And so, once you get locked in, it's all the same. It really is, whether you're, at Goose Creek High School or you're in Rupp Arena.
Yeah, doesn't matter to you.
It doesn't matter.
So how do you see this team competing in the Big South this year? Where do you think you guys are going to fall?
Well, I think a couple things is, again, how fast do you grow up and mature as a basketball team? Are we going to be committed to doing the things as a team that calls for winning results? That means working hard every day, having a great focus in practice, understanding that practice is an extension of the basketball game. Will guys continue to improve individually and so much will you find good leadership? Will the guys that are returning continue to lead the young guys? And, so those are the kind of things that we will be looking for early, but there's no reason why this basketball team in this conference can't compete for a conference championship.
How's your schedule look for this year?
Well, obviously the non-conference teams, with Marquette and Clemson and Florida, those kinds of teams, Middle Tennessee State, you'll get those kinds of challenges, which, certainly will help you grow up quicker. Then, of course, the conference schedule itself will be a good challenge. We have two new teams coming in that are going to be a factor immediately, I think, with Upstate and Hampton. And then I look at the the other teams, maybe South Carolina State or North Florida that we play in the non-conference, will be games that we certainly have to compete in and be successful. So it's a balanced schedule. It's some really tough games. There's some games that, that you might consider toss-ups, and there's some games on there that you should win.
Yeah. You guys, basketball seems like it starts earlier and earlier every year. When do you guys begin practice?
Well, I can tell you this.
September 1st?
There's only 12 months, and we do something all 12 months. So I don't know if we can start any earlier.
I mean,
than
is
that.
it just me, or does it seem like basketball now is on ESPN almost every night, no matter whether it's some form of it, whether it's the NBA or college or this 3-on-3 or the guys going after the $2 million. I mean, it just seems like there's basketball there all the time.
Well, I think that the urge for young players to get more time with coaches and not feel the pressure of thinking that they have to go to the pros immediately out of high school because somehow they're not going to get enough time on the court because of school and all those things. And we continue to keep adding time to workout schedules and practice times and those kinds of things so that coaches can have more hands-on opportunities with players. And that hands-on opportunity with the players will allow them, of course, time to improve. But like you said, now it becomes a longer season, more time on the court. And then the question will be, how does that affect the other areas of their life?
Yeah. Is that good for you, though? Is that good for basketball, for the coaches to have more time and able to have your hands on these guys?
I think so. I think that's really good because I think, obviously sometimes too much free time and too much idle time is not always good. So you do want to balance it. Sometimes you may have a little more time with them in a week than you may cut back the next week because of that. But I think the more time you can spend with them making deposits, and I think the misconception sometimes with coaches is because we have more time, we think all of that time needs to be on the basketball court. And in reality, that time also needs to be spent in developing people and to making sure that, we're meeting their needs off the basketball court and getting to know people at a much deeper level.
Well, it is great seeing you again. We've known each other for a lot of years from your days
forever.
back in Columbia. So it's good to have you back here in South Carolina. Of course, I think we saw you last year when we were here, and your first year, Charleston. So best of luck.
Thank you, Phil.
Tell Coach Ball we said hello, and look forward to watching you guys this coming basketball season.
Look forward to seeing you as well.
Coming at us quickly.
Take care.
Okay, Rick Duckett from the Charleston Southern basketball team. And, of course, he was an integral part of those successful teams at South Carolina under Eddie Fogler back in the day, and he's trying to help elevate this Charleston Southern basketball team, which has had some really good years under Barkley Ball, and looking to maybe make a run in the Big South and show up in that NCAA tournament with that new formula they have for picking the teams now.
Yeah. Corin, we have a tweet directed towards you. It's at SportsTalkSC. It's from a guy who refers to himself as Dr. Gamecock. He says, "How dare Clemson sign a player not from the state of South Carolina?" Your thoughts?
I think you sign players that want to come play for you, that are really good players. And if you can get really good players in your home state who want to come take official visits and eventually sign with you, you do that too. They have the scholarship numbers to do both. So I congratulate Clemson on getting a commitment from across the state in Georgia. And, of course, they've got 3 in-state to top players set for official visits that they will have a chance to woo and sign as well.
Clemson has to recruit Atlanta. They're in Atlanta's back door. You need to recruit
They're
Atlanta.
closer to Atlanta than any basketball powerhouse that's in this state. I can tell you that right now.
Where is there a basketball powerhouse in the state?
My point exactly.
We'll be right back.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
We talked a little bit earlier about the South Carolina defense. We're going to hear from a major key cog of that here coming up on Sports Talk. We're brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Whether it's low rates or high rewards, using select Founders credit cards on clothes, school supplies, a new computer, even college tuition will help prepare your kids for their first day of school. Apply online at foundersfcu.com/visa. Both Clemson and South Carolina are in the unenviable situation of losing their leading tacklers from a year ago. South Carolina feels like they are able to replace the leadership from Sky Moore with somebody who has been an existing part of that defense and finished second on the team in tackles by only about 6 to Sky Moore last year, and that is TJ Brunson, a man who is not only making all the calls when it comes to the linebacking core, but the entire defense, as he told us earlier in camp.
I'm out there making the calls and everything, and also I've been here for a little bit and I understand the scheme and everything, so I think both of those play into each other.
You making the calls for the entire defense or just the linebackers?
Entire defense.
How important are tackles to you? Your tackle totals? Is that something you look at?
I'm not really sure right now. I mean, I just go out and try to play like as hard as I can. I'm really not sure about.
Would a 100 tackle season be meaningful to you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it means I'm running around making plays. So I'm sure I'll eclipse that this year.
Well, we get a sheet at the end of every game that has tackles on it. But I assume the coaches do their own list. Is that right? Do you know how that works?
Yeah, I think so. When they go back through the film and do all of the grading and everything, I'm sure that's up there.
I think we had you for 88 last year. What did they have you for? Do you know?
Probably 88.
The numbers are usually pretty similar.
Yeah.
As far as just the biggest obstacle going into the season, what do you think the biggest obstacle is to making sure this defense plays to where it was last year?
Just focusing on the details. All of the small things, the little things are really important. Those add up to, eventually making big plays, just understanding the ins and outs and everything.
What do you think the biggest step you've made with your own personal game has been?
Understanding the details. That's been a big focus, this off season and going into camp and everything. Just the little things.
Coach Muschamp said that Florida and Clemson, he felt like hurt y'all with the RPO game last year. Has seeing it more in practice helped you guys get used to it, get accustomed to it, prepared for it better?
Yes, definitely.
What have you learned any secrets of it? Is it just a matter of getting reps and recognition and
recognition, and everyone doing their job?
Yeah. How much has the up-tempo offense kind of changed the way practice has gone just for the whole team?
It's gotten us used to the up-tempo, moving fast, and it's helped the defense understand, that we have to get our calls in and understand, what to expect in certain formations so we can line up faster and play fast.
How do you think you guys did against, the up-tempo defense? Up-tempo offenses. You saw a couple of last year.
I think we did pretty good. I just think, like with the fact that we understand what we have to do in our own scheme now and just seeing everything, all of these different formations, it's definitely going to help us line up faster.
Has it created a bigger workload in practice because there's simply more plays in the amount of time?
No, practice is always fast. It's always there's always a lot to understand, but I think the way that we practice prepares us for the game.
That is TJ Brunson, South Carolina linebacker. You had something?
No, I was just trying to say it's got to be a special place in the heart of Muschamp because Corn can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe right after his introductory press conference as coach at South Carolina, he got in the car and went over to Rich Northeast and met with Mr. Brunson.
He's a special spot in the heart of the South Carolina head coach. This is something that was shared to us by our friend David Hood of TigerNet Corn. Apparently, the city of Greenville is serious about trying to lure the ACC tournament away from Durham. The contract for that tournament lasts through the 2019 year. So they have one more year at Durham Bulls Athletic Park before the requests are open for 2020. They've set out an RFP basically for contracts up to 4 years. Of course, it's been in Greenville since it was there 87 and 95 at the old Greenville Braves Stadium. The Durham ballpark, I would say, to put this nicely, more logistically able I think, to handle the demands of a tournament of this nature. Not that I don't want to see this come to the state of South Carolina, Corn, but you and I have covered games in both ballparks, and we, I think, can admit that the experience, we would hate to say it like this, but the experience in Durham probably better, at least for us and for fans, more than would say in Greenville, other than, for the example, the travel.
Well, I have not covered the ACC tournament in Durham at Durham's Park, because I'm always at the SEC tournament. Just has worked out that way, so I don't think I can really speak on that. I know Greenville from covering the Clemson, South Carolina neutral site game there. A little tight from a media standpoint. You can speak more about Durham and the room they have from a media standpoint. Well, accommodating the teams and all that with all, I watch the SEC tournament in Hoover, which and they shuffle the teams in and out on the buses, and they have a nearby Hoover High School is nearby. I mean, like a half mile from the park, so teams can go over and take BP and prepare for their game in advance. I don't know that they have that in Greenville.
Well, that's what they do at Durham. They basically have the old Durham Bulls Park, the one where they filmed the movie. They have that as basically their secondary field where the teams will have workouts, and they can take early BP if they want to, especially if the schedule gets somewhat condensed. I think that they are better equipped to handle that tournament, and I hate to talk about it from just the media perspective, but they block out all of their home plate suites and turn that into a media section area, at least for us. So I'm talking about, just from a selfish standpoint, is a much more spacious area for folks there. I don't know what they would do for Greenville if the tournament went there, if they would block out a particular suite area. I know they want to get that. Someone's putting out on our Periscope that Greenville High School is across the street from the stadium there in Greenville, so that is something there that they could use on the West End. But at the same point, I feel like, even just from the standpoint of attendance, the big part of that as well is getting the schools from the Triangle. You're going to lose that if you move it to Greenville.
Well, Corn, you remember years ago that they had already decided to move it out of Durham. They were coming to Myrtle Beach before the flap of the flag came up again, but they had already made a decision to go to Myrtle Beach, so they have been looking around.
Well, one of the reasons that they took it away from Greenville previously was Clemson was winning the championship practically every year when Bill Wilhelm was there. Maybe even Jack Leggett might have had some of that run as well. And all the fans, I mean, they would pack it, but it was all Clemson people. I don't know if Durham is more of a neutral site setting in terms of fan support. You were there. Did you see more of a spread of the fans, or was it mostly Tar Heels and Wolfpackers and Dukies?
It was mostly Tar Heels, Wolfpackers, and Dukies. You did see an orange.
NC State.
Yeah, you saw NC State there as well. He said Wolfpackers, so yeah, that is NC State. But you did see an orange infusion there when Clemson played there. It was there for that. Just looking at the ACC tournaments played in Greenville, they played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and Clemson won 4 of them: 89, 91, 93, 94. The attendance hovered basically around 35 to 40,000 for the weekend. I don't have the Durham numbers in front of me. I just know that the one thing that really hurt them this year was none of the Triangle teams made the weekend. So that part of it really is where it suffered. But again, I'm not trying to say one city is more equipped to handle one than the other. I think logistically, they kind of know what they're doing in Durham, and not to say that they don't in Greenville or they can't figure it out. I think that there are limitations beyond the space and logistics from where they're going. But we'll see what happens as far as that goes.
I'd love for them to come back to the state. All right, first of all, I want to thank the folks here at Charleston Southern. I know we had a couple of rough spots there with the connection, but we finally figured one out that was going to work well for us, and it did well for us in the second hour, so we're thankful for that. Thanks to Coach Mark Tucker and the players, Cam Brown and Solomon Brown and Seth Montgomery, the sports information director here at Charleston Southern, for working with us and supplying us with everything that we needed. Tomorrow night, back in Charleston at the Citadel, El Cid. We're coming your way. Looking forward to that. Will, Pro, have a great night. Thank you, Brian. We'll see you tomorrow night here on Sports Talk.